dancers all believe that they can be the next superstar choreographer.
I'm here to win this thing.
I'm Allie Love, and welcome to Dance 100, the only dance competition where the dancers decide who stays and who goes.
It is crazy.
In each round,
it's a dance thing. Of course it's crazy.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm not a dancer. I'm Tom Merritt.
Yeah, well, guess what? You just entered the world's newest dance reality competition, the one in which two co-hosts enter and only one gets to introduce our guest. Here we go. Hands up, hands down, hands to the side, hands all around. What's up with hands? I don't know. Who won, Bryce?
I think that's all of us when we're enjoying the new Netflix competition show, Dance 100.
Yes!
You heard the pitch there. 8 choreographers. They have to make routines with increasingly larger numbers of dancers. So they start with only 5 and they work their way up to having to choreograph 100 dancers.
1 million dancers.
And the dancers are the judges. So the dancers are like the Dance 100.
Yeah,
so that's...
there was a Chinese show called Top Dance, very similar in concept. I don't know if this is licensing that or imitating it or just happens to be kind of, you know, how reality shows work. But
it could be.
But yeah, it's a cool way of doing it to have the dancers judge and all that.
Yeah, it's $100,000 on the line, which is a pretty good amount for the reality show stuff. That's going to come to Netflix.
Pay for some dancing shoes.
Yeah, a couple of them. That'll be March 17th on Netflix.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day.
Well, yeah. I mean, given the fact that Bryce danced around the question that I asked him, I guess he could be the one to introduce our guest.
Yeah, well, joining us from old Holly Weird, it's one Merrill Barr. Hi, Merrill.
I'm here. I made it. I'm back. First time.
Dance on in here, Merrill.
Yay. Brian, weren't you literally on a dance competition reality show?
You know, I've done so many things, it's hard to remember. Yes.
I remember.
I mean, are you sure I can't just go on YouTube and find clips of you just in with spikes and?
No, I think they took those down. They took those clips down.
Did they really?
No, I'm just trying to move.
At Brian's request.
But I will say it was amazing to talk to the old school choreographers, the folks who had been doing it for like 20 years and so on. If this is a program that celebrates what I heard, like that's an experience that I don't know that anybody would have gotten anywhere outside of being on a dance competition reality show.
Yeah. All right, folks, let's get right into the primary target. Well, with DC getting so much attention and controversy, Marvel's Kevin Feige thought it was about time he talked to one of the publications and gave an interview to Entertainment Weekly, dropping a few tidbits here and there about what's coming in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Among those tidbits, they're going to slow down the pace of releases for Disney Plus shows as they enter phases 5, 6, and 7. They're going to do 7 shows for phase 5. They did 8 for phase 4. You know, that's not a huge drop, but it's slowing, I guess. Fantastic Four is the foundation for everything that came after in the comics, says Feige. We plan on that being a pillar of the MCU going forward, just the way they've been in the comics for 50 or 60 years. And the first MCU Fantastic Four is still on the schedule for Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2025. We also got some release date changes. These weren't related to the interview, but the Marvels moved from July 28th to November 10th, and now Haunted Mansion is taking that July 28th slot.
Merrill, when I read a headline like this, I feel like there's a secret message buried beneath it. Is the secret message like the MCU as we knew it is over, or is it that they need a minute to collaborate and figure out what the next phase is, or what?
The secret message is there's a lot happening here. And actually, I feel like it's almost hard to do justice to how many things are happening at once. So you have the first issue, which is we came out of phase 3 and it was meant to be, phase 4 was meant to be this big reset for the MCU. And I'm not saying it wasn't, but I think we can all agree it wasn't the explosive, like performer that I think everyone wanted. Two, you had the invention of the Disney Plus programming, and everyone in the beginning was like, "Oh, so we'll just make 6-hour." There's literally quotes from Feige saying like these are meant to be 6-hour movies. They'll be broken out as 6-hour movies, and if they're comedy or drama, there'll be 6 episodes or there'll be 10 episodes, but they'll be broken out as 6-hour movies. Is how we're structuring them. What Tom did not read, because Tom, I don't remember if it was in this particular quote, but it was said the goal is to make those shows more television-like. He does go say that in somewhere in the article, which means. Look, the upcoming Daredevil is going to be 18 episodes. I assume that's going to mean 2 groups of 9, but it's going to be 18 episodes. The goal is to do more television, do more episodes, spread them out, not have to hit one every quarter and saturate the market. And also just there is the nature of the need for cost cutting where possible. And by not having to produce, 6 to 8 Marvel shows a year, in addition to the 3 to 4 movies per year, that's how you save a little money as well.
Yeah. I feel like that last one is the one. Not that anything else you said was wrong, but like Bob Iger came in and said, "Hi, Kevin, you're powering this entire company. On the other hand, not every dollar you spend turns into $2 we make. So what can you cut?" And Feige probably said, "Yeah, we could probably do fewer television shows and make them have more bang for their buck. Disney Plus is going to be okay. And, it seems to have momentum, et cetera." So it makes sense to me.
I mean, as long as we're speculating, I would like to believe that at that point, Feige punched his fists together and caused his entire body to turn into rocks and began to punch and fight Feige, who turned into a robot of some variety.
Or Feige said, how about Fantastic $4 million series?
Only $4 million, Tom? That's pretty low.
Okay.
Well, but each one. So you got 6 or 7.
Pulling back the curtain a little bit.
That's not how math works.
Fantastic Four.
It is now. It's Marvel. They can do whatever they want.
Outside of Iron Man, Fantastic Four is the most precious Marvel property to yours truly. And I find myself in a weird place where I can't even emotionally engage with the hype engine because I've been betrayed because don't know if you noticed, but Fantastic Four doesn't do super well ever.
Its previous incarnations have not proven
I mean,
to
it's a
be successful.
wacky it's a wacky property to adapt, and they tried the really silly version with the aughts movies. They tried the really gritty version with
90s.
Well,
wow.
I'm not talking the Corman one.
Yeah.
The Corman one was the Corman doesn't count.
They tried the Corman one. Yeah.
They tried the Corman way. Then they tried to do a faithful but 1-to-1 faithful, which means really silly. Let's have Vic Mackey from The Shield be the Thing. It's very bizarre. And then they tried the really gritty one, which is notorious for a lot of reasons. So I'm excited for Kevin Feige to have it. I think that Kevin is going to be able to do with it what he did with Spider-Man and really get into the character, but in a way that's modern but holds to the roots. Like, I mean,
what he did with Iron Man, what he did with the Avengers, which also were not top properties before he even had Spider-Man, right? I mean,
point being, Kevin's earned the trust, right? Kevin has earned the trust. I think also that he was trying. I think that regarding the shows and the cost cutting, it's like he was trying to navigate. Like, look, there was a very famous fight going on between Feige and Ike Perlmutter over television in particular as it relates to the MCU. It's how we ended up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix shows because Ike really wanted television and Kevin was like, I don't want television. And then it eventually, Kevin won the battle, but you could argue what Mike won the war because Disney Plus needed Marvel shows. Yeah. And Kevin was like, all right, fine, I'll do them. But I think he was like, I'm doing them my way. Turns out your way doesn't really make television shows that have, like, the beauty of television is you get to have a long story and on a cost level. In theory, your show is supposed to go down in cost over time because you're using the same sets, you're using the same actors, right? But if you're going to keep making these 6-hour movies where each one stands alone and each one costs $200 million to make, there's not a lot of cost saving happening. I think it's just, a learning how to do a thing that people have been doing for a long time.
And the other thing that adds to all of this, and probably is more about the Fantastic Four than the Disney Plus shows, is that we had the pandemic tear up their calendar.
Yep.
And force story changes because of that. You had the death of Chadwick Boseman, who was supposed to be a pillar of this. And, not that Shuri can't be, a pillar, but it wasn't meant to be that. So they've had these things that they've had to adapt to and change to, which I think you makes phase 4 a wash. Phase 4 was never supposed to be the way it ended up being. And now they're trying to scramble to re-knit those pieces together. It was a hard enough job to pull off the first 3 phases without having to do all that.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, let me just say again, for the record, I know I've mentioned this before, but Jason Murphy and I totally agree that the perfect Fantastic Four movie is not a Fantastic Four movie. It's a movie about Doom. Make Doom our hero, anti-hero, and then give us the Fantastic Four out of that.
That's the most worrying part of this, is there is no indication of that yet.
Well,
maybe we'll get it.
Get on that.
I mean, they need,
just
literally, and I'll, this is the last thing I'll say about the Fantastic Four. They need Doom. Like, Doom is such a vital piece of the rogues gallery in the Marvel universe. They need, because they don't have Doom. They have Kang right now, right? They had Thanos. They got Kang incoming, but Doom is the guy. You think about Marvel.
Is Kang paving the way for Doom then?
Maybe.
I don't know what Kang is, but I do know what Doom is. Doom is practical science applied. He's the perfect economist. He's the perfect politician. He's the perfect scientist. He's saying, sorry, as much as I would love to be nice to these people or bad to these people or whatever, I know what is best for the world. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four are 4 elements. You have earth, water, fire, air, etc.
Earth, wind, fire, and checklist.
Yes. And basically what you have is you have Aristotelian elementalism paired up against somebody who's like, no, I understand quantum physics and I understand programming and I understand blogs and all those things. That is the essence of what makes Fantastic Four excellent. And the best villains are the ones that you agree 92% with, and then you lose them. And Doom is that guy.
They're really setting up Kang as the big bad, which wouldn't leave much room for Doom, unless Kang just opens the door for Doom.
They're saying it was the big bad of this phase, but as far as Doom, though, Doom is the yin to Tony Stark's yang. We have not had evil Tony Stark in the MCU yet. Doom can be evil Tony Stark, which would ground the MCU back down to that practicality that made Iron Man so cool.
You're both making very good arguments why Doom should be in this MCU. What I'm pointing out is there's no evidence that they're intend to use him yet.
Yeah, look, we all get it, Tom. Stuff falls down. That's gravity.
Things fall apart.
We're not
Chinua Achebe.
We're not happy about that, though.
Well, we'll see. What I'm wondering is if Fantastic Four is far enough in the future that it could be the introduction of Doom, and it would still fit into what they've done with Kang so far. But that's the future. We need to talk about the now.
That's the only other thing is I would love it, so love it if Fantastic Four or Doom or whatever it was set at the height of the Cold War and it was 1962 as hell. That would be amazing.
Oh, and what if Doom slips through it like a time loop, which is why we've seen no hint of him now.
You know what?
Ooh, they could de-age Michael Douglas for a whole movie and then have Hank Pym be part of that, because they've already kind of painted him as this guy from that era.
Look,
of the MCU.
I don't want to overpromise here, but
okay.
I can absolutely promise that if everybody who hears this donates at patreon.com/cordkillers, just $1 per episode, we absolutely can buy the franchise, write it, and do it correctly. This 100% will happen. I see no problem with me making this objectively true statement on a recorded format.
Look,
Test
Brian,
us. Test us, folks. Patreon.com/cordkillers. If you don't think Brian is telling the truth, there's one way to find out. There's one way to put paid to Brian, and that's to pay us $1.
I'm not saying that there are plans to kidnap C. Robert Cargill to make sure we get it right. I'm also not saying there aren't plans to do that.
I'm saying there aren't. Just for the. I'm
definitely
saying there's
are not.
actually. Good
Merrill
joke,
is the
everybody,
only one
but-
saying that. Patreon.com/cordkillers, folks. Keep us loud, live, and independent. Let's talk about how to watch. Ooh, we have a counter narrative. You may have seen that Netflix has dropped prices in Ecuador. You heard me right. Dropped its prices. In the Daily Tech News Show subreddit, Gadget Virtuoso noted that Ecuador is one of the few countries experiencing deflation. And in that same thread, Gauchum noted that in his country, price drops are happening in Jamaica. And there's a Reddit thread reporting that Netflix price drops are happening in the Balkans as well. We've got another Netflix topic to get to, but let's touch on this counter narrative. Everybody complaining about price increases, saying, well, it's not like they'll ever drop the price. Appears in a few places, not saying they're going to do this anywhere else, but they've definitely been dropping the prices.
That's one of the curious things that you only get to find out when you actually try it. For example, Tesla has its stock prices having difficulty with trying to chase the exponential increase forever and ever and ever. So instead, they did a nutty thing and cut the price and sold a crap ton of vehicles. And the market is like, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know.
Did you make more money?
Right,
That's what the market would like to know. Yeah.
Literally, you won't find out for another quarter or whatever. So if Netflix is playing the same game, all of that seems to be a race to market efficiency, which seems like a good thing, question mark?
I mean, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, these are all countries that the password sharing policy has been enacted, correct?
No.
But
They are
it
not.
has been announced it's going to be enacted.
Well, they've announced that they're going to do it in every country. So
Okay,
yes,
right. So I wonder if,
but there is no correlation between password sharing and these countries getting price increases.
My point though is this could be a test case of, okay, we've announced the whole we're cutting off password sharing.
Oh,
and this might be a way to get those people back into the ecosystem on their dime and then slowly raise it back up.
That makes logical sense,
Yep.
but there doesn't seem to be any connection between those two things.
They wouldn't announce it, right? Because then if they announced that they're dropping the price, that would drive down the stock. So they don't want to announce it.
I actually rather like your idea, Merrill. If they are going to enact a draconian, shutdown of piracy, then at least ameliorate that by making everything cheaper, so everybody's confused as they say, "Hooray!" Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it's not password sharing, it's certainly true that what they're doing is saying, people can't afford to get Netflix in large enough numbers. Our supply and demand curve shows that if we move the price here, we'll make more money. And so I like this story because I look at these things and think not like, Netflix is run by a greedy miser who wants to figure out how to screw you over. Netflix is run by people who want to increase the bottom line. And sometimes lowering a price will increase that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility if not enough people are getting Netflix that they might lower the price in order to get more people to try Netflix, especially in a competitive world where we got so many streaming services.
Just gonna throw this out here.
All right.
A reboot of Silas Marner. Only it's somebody who just wants good movies to be out to people, but he holds them to himself. And then he realizes, he wakes up one morning, some of you know it doesn't matter.
I'm so glad that we got a Silas Marner reference into the show. That's all I can add to that. Now let's get to the password sharing. The first unintended consequence story of Netflix's password sharing prevention scheme was reported by CTV News. Remember, they launched it in 4 countries. We talked about that last week, and one of those countries was Canada. A man named Carlos Salazzo has been waiting in a Vancouver hospital for a double lung transplant for 5 months. So serious business. While he's in the hospital, his wife and 2 children are not in the hospital with him every day. They are quite frequently at their home in the nearby town of Victoria. He heard the rule that he needed to check in with his device on the primary network every 30 days, does not want to give his device to his wife to take home and check in and bring it back because he doesn't want to be without it. So he called Netflix to say he can't really do that. And they didn't really give him any satisfactory answers. Now, here's the other part of this. It does not appear that Salazzo's account has been restricted yet. Probably hasn't hit that 30-day limit, first of all, but he's not saying I got cut off. He's saying I'm worried about getting cut off, and I called them, and they didn't tell me anything that I could do to make sure I don't get cut off. Netflix has also not responded publicly to this story as of yet. Merrill, I'm going to toss it straight to you. Is this overhype or a bad reaction?
All right. So Tom, you might actually be able to answer this because I've been sitting on this question for weeks, hoping to actually ask you because you would know. Regarding the policy, is the policy that you have to re-log in, or is the policy that you have to be active? And it's a very specific question, meaning that as long as you are actively using, the primary account holders actively using their Netflix account, they should never have to log in. It's only if they stop using it in 30 days, they have to then re-log in, right, from the primary home?
So what we're talking about is the device being whitelisted as a home device. That device has to be used on your network in a way that Netflix can say, oh yeah, that device is at home, so it's cool for another 30 days. I don't know, because Netflix hasn't made it clear whether you have to actually press play on something or just be logged in and have an IP address request as it loads the page.
Because
that part I'm unclear on, but it's per device. The idea being, if you have like someone who's sharing the password in a different location using a laptop, that laptop will never be on the home network. And that way they'll be able to tell, oh, I don't think that laptop is part of the household. Whereas if you're traveling a lot, but you're always bringing that laptop home once a month and it is noted on the home network, they'll be like, it's just a person who travels a lot. That's fine.
So because all of this from the jump for the last, was it been about a month now since they announced it? Like, has been just one failed piece of communication after another from the company. And to me, that is the biggest problem here. No one is clear on, does it mean I have to log in? Does it mean that as long as I actively sign into the app and use it, is it clear? Like, no one knows. And I think what this story is really about in this case is this dude has no clarity on what the deal is. Like, we all have no clarity on what the deal is. None of us really know.
I disagree with you. I feel pretty clear. If I'm a home user not sharing my password with anyone, I'm probably not going to have to worry about this. Remember, Netflix is trying to catch people who are violating their terms of service. And so when you're like, well, what's the clarity? Do I just have to bring it there and log in? That's someone who's trying to work around the policy. If you look at the policy, it's pretty clear, active on the network. And if you're like, well, does that mean I just have to log in or do I have to play something? Netflix is like, why would we tell you that unless you're trying to work around the system? If you're a normal user, it wouldn't matter. So I feel like these are pretty clear to me. And I don't feel confused by them at all.
Well, so let's step out of the technical side of things and ask the question, like, if what Netflix wants is to reduce password sharing, then offer something in return. And I think we've stumbled into something that I think would be very, very good. Is what if Netflix made the thrust of their message, what we want is, we know that when people are in pain and they're at the hospital, they rely on Netflix to get through it. What if we were able to give that for free? The cost is all of us as a team are going to have to be better about, not sharing passwords or something like that, or going from 5 passwords to 4 passwords or whatever. Is there something there?
I mean, sure. I guess if I'm Netflix and this guy hasn't been cut off, I can only lose by responding to it. Because especially if I'm like, well, we actually created the system so it won't cut off people like him because we whitelisted hospitals and we whitelisted, certain universities, but we don't want to tell people that because they will use that to get around the system. Again, folks are acting like Netflix has to tell you all the details about how they fight the thing they don't want to happen. They don't. If you are someone who's not sharing your password, this system is likely never to flag you. The one exception to that is when you're traveling and it's a device that you never log into at home, right? You've got that iPad you only take traveling. You might run into like, hey, this hasn't been on the network for 30 days, in which case you'll have to get them to email you a code. That's a little wonky. That's a little unexpected. But most of the time, if you're not password sharing, you're not going to run into this. I am very curious if Carlos Sollozzo ever gets kicked off or if Netflix is doing some things behind the scenes to try to minimize the number of false positives here. And that's why they're being cagey is, again, this is an anti-fraud position that they're in to say, what we want to do is catch the people who are actually password sharing. And if they're doing it right, because they can be fault tolerant here, there won't be a lot of false positives because there are other signals they can take into account besides just the, were you active on the network?
Yeah, I feel like if Netflix could ever be bothered to ask me for my advice, I feel like I would advise them when the propaganda war of saying like story by story by story, this is this person who got through this event because they were able to watch Netflix or whatever, and remind everybody that all of us being honest about our password usage is what enables this positive thing to happen.
Yeah. And that's where it gets tricky with Sollozzo's case is it's probably a black box, even to the customer support people, to the point where they can't say to him, you'll be fine, because it's not the way you do anti-fraud is not black and white, and he might get caught into it. There's a small chance he might get caught. And so that's why they're not giving him any information like that. But I you're right, Brian. If they did or they could, and they stepped into it, that would be better. But then if he does get caught and they have to fix it, well, then that becomes a story. They told me it'd be fine, and it wasn't.
Right.
So I feel like they're playing the waiting game to say like, well, let's see if people actually get caught, get turned off or not, because they probably don't know either. This stuff, again, it isn't mechanical. It's very fuzzy logic.
I wonder if they could get away with like giving really hard numbers of like, if we go from 5 shared passwords to 4 shared passwords per household, we can save this much money, all of which will definitely go to people in hospitals or something like that. That's
yeah, no, I see where you're going with that. Like if they just came out and said, look, we whitelisted the hospitals. Don't go into hospital parking lots and try to use Netflix. But
and it's a little bit like the World War II. We could do it like women could go to the workforce now, that kind of thing, where it's like all of us are working together to cause something wonderful to happen to people who are in need.
Something wonderful is going to happen to the Netflix bottom line. Hoorah!
Well, and
yeah, let's go help them out.
I'll be honest, I don't even know this is going to help their bottom line all that much.
As a Netflix stockholder, let me just say.
Oh, Jiminy.
Well, at least you disclosed. All right, let's talk about what to watch and Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Under surveillance.
Listen, folks, does my wife work for a company that's owned by NBC? Sure. Do I sometimes wrap myself in a free Peacock fleece blanket they gave her? Yes. But NBC has renewed Ryan Johnson's Poker Face for a second season on Peacock. So it must be at least as much of a success as it needs to be to get a renewal at Peacock. Yet, many people have told me they haven't watched it because they don't get Peacock. It's one thing if they're like, I don't want to buy Peacock, but they say, I don't get Peacock. And a tone similar to what people use when they didn't get a cable channel. Oh, I don't get MTV. It's not on my cable system. As if there's nothing they could do about it. Brian, do we need to relearn the system Or is this just a more polite way of saying I don't want to do it?
In the beginning, there was cable and it was bad. Then cable split and became balkanized into a bazillion different services. And that's where we are now. Let's play this game. Everybody, I'm going to describe Poker Face. It's great. You should watch it. What service does it feel like that show belongs on?
It feels very Max original-ish to me. What would you say, Merrill?
HBO Max?
HBO Max is fair. I go with HBO Max too.
But Max, not HBO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bryce?
I would put it on like a fast channel. I like the show, but there's a lot of bits about it
Like
that
a
make me
freebie?
think that,
Yeah.
or like a
Like a Roku
Tubi,
channel, like
Roku
along
channel.
with the Weird Al thing. Okay,
Because it's just it's good. There's a lot of characters, but also it's a little cheap.
To be honest, I cannot. I think one of the things I love the most about it is that it does feel kind of cheap.
Okay.
So-
and what service do you watch? What service do you think Peacock or Poker Face is on?
Things I found out this week.
Okay.
I'm still subscribed to Peacock. That shouldn't be news to me.
You gave me your Peacock
Especially when
code 2
Brian
weeks
told me
ago.
he
How did
didn't
you
get
do that?
Okay, I was
I don't get
lying
Peacock.
for the moment.
He did. I feel like part of it is people just not wanting to do work to add a channel. I think the Amazon Primes and the Apple TVs and such need to do more work to get more of these channels on board, because there's a big difference if you're looking at your Amazon Prime Video and it says, hey, would you like to watch Poker Face? And you click, yeah, that looks great. I've heard great things about it. And it says, oh, it'll be $5 a month. We'll just add it to your subscription. Is that cool? People will hit yes. They will hit yes all day long. They will spend that $5 and they won't complain because it goes on a bill they're already paying and they don't have to think about it.
Okay.
When it's, hey, you want to watch Poker Face? Go to peacock.com. Okay, now create a login. Okay, now add your billing, and people give up. They're like, no, that's too much work. I don't want to do that.
So I have a really dumb idea, and I want everybody to write in at cordkillers@gmail.com and tell me just how dumb this is. But what if Poker Face, just Poker Face, was exactly $4.99, just under $5, and you could buy it
For an episode or the season?
the whole season?
Well, that would be very cheap.
Correct. Also, about the same that you pay for Peacock to get the whole season and so on.
Especially if you wait to the end of the season for Poker Face, pay $5 and get the whole thing, right?
Right, but
To
then,
rent it.
But then you
To
have to
rent it.
think to unsubscribe and so on or whatever. Like, are we entering the age where we think of single seasons the way we think of audiobooks? Because I don't hesitate 1 second to pay $5 for an audiobook, and that's more time.
Yes. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. You see what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. People.
So
People are bad at equivalencies like that. But when you put it like that, it really does put it in perspective of like, yeah, you spent $5 on a latte, you spent $5 on an audiobook, but you don't want to spend $5 on the Peacock subscription. And that's fine. You don't have to, but those are the same price. Those are all the same price.
Because you're forced to know about all the other programs that you're not watching.
Right.
It's like, yes, you're only getting the one thing, but then you have to look at all the things that you're not getting. It's like it's like going to a Chinese buffet or something.
The existing business models do not support that concept, though, because the idea is in an audiobook, Brian, most of the time also you're going through your Audible subscription, so you've got your monthly credits, right? So you have your monthly credits and you get your audio. Like the conceit of making money in audiobooks and books is a long tail prospect. It takes years to make that money back because it's people in their own time finding it and discovering it. In television and movies, it's about we spent this money 3 years ago or 2 years ago or a year ago to make the thing, and now we need to make the money back now, or at least a bulk of the money back now, and then in long tail we'll make profit after we've made the money back. The current business model does not support an a la carte type system because then everyone be moving at their own pace and they never make the money back.
Except it does, because you can go and you can buy seasons of shows in lots of places. Like it's a thing you could do.
But in the after effect, like right, like
sometimes in current season, in season stuff. Depends on, like,
Merrill.
HBO doesn't do it in season. But some of them do.
Well, so there's a middle ground that I agree. Merrill is correct that you're just hosed. If something is currently popular on HBO, there's no extracting the content from the platform. There is content that gets funded before it even gets made, and there's other content that gets paid for in the long tail long after it's been culturally relevant. But the tricky spot that the networks want to own is that middle ground.
Yeah. Well, and the bigger point that I was trying to make is that we look at the $5 a month for Peacock as way more expensive than the $5 we would pay for a single use item, right? And I think that's where Brian was pointing out as well.
Correct. Like we continue to watch episodes of Miami Vice, and even as we left Peacock and started to have to buy them on Amazon, none of us have really begrudged the $2.99 that we have to spend on that.
Speaking of spending $5 on something a month, Ted Lasso released a teaser video and announced the third season will return to Apple TV Plus March 15th. How are we feeling about Ted Lasso, Merrill?
Bring it back. Put it in my veins. I want
Just
it.
get it to me.
Give it to me. I want
You
it.
believe
I want more. I want
is what you're saying.
I mean, here's the most interesting part. You know what's not said in that teaser? Final season. There's been all this talk about 3 seasons and done for Ted Lasso, but I feel like they would have gone out of their way to say final season if they intended a final season. So I think we're not done with Ted after this. They might take a break. I think they'll maybe give it some time. Like, it's all it means. Granted, it's been a year and a half since the last season, but I think they'll give it a little time. But I don't think we're done with Ted Lasso.
I disagree. I do think this is the last season. However,
it might be the last season for this arc.
Here's a question. As a matter of fact, imagine Ted Lasso ends, and now there's a new show, and it's entirely about one of the single characters going off doing something else.
Sure.
But here's something that I want people to write in at cordkillers@gmail.com. Was Ted Lasso supernaturally good, or was it just supernaturally well-timed in the middle of the pandemic while we are all scared and at home to be this radiant blast of positivity?
And is there a difference? Because timing is always part of something being good, right?
Of course. I mean, yes, the entire show is amazing and awesome, and the characters are great, and the story is good.
But did it get a multiplier effect? Yeah.
Right. Right.
I mean, yes. I don't, yeah, 100%. Like same way Tiger King did. The difference is that Ted Lasso got its relevancy because of the pandemic, but what kept it in the cultural gestalt is the fact that it's actually a really good show, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was also the timeliness of a world where people are angry at each other, and a show that was like, hey, what if we didn't have to pick sides at all, but still were nice to each other? I think that was part of its appeal too. So timeliness, not just of the lockdown, but also of this, like, but we're all fighting about stuff too.
Right. I mean, the proof.
And on top of that, you have the fact that in season 1, everybody's fighting with each other, but the one thing they all agree on is screw this guy who's made of positivity and wonderment,
Yeah. All right, let's go from fake soccer to real soccer. Next Saturday, this Saturday, February 25th, the 2023 U.S. Major League Soccer season starts. This is significant for us on Cordkillers because it's Apple's biggest sports venture yet. They brought on weekly MLB last year. Now they're getting all of Major League Soccer. Here's what you're going to get. There will be no blackouts. Subscribers get to watch every regular season game, the All-Star game, MLS Cup playoffs, the League's Cup, development teams, the whole ball of wax. Game times aren't going to jump around because of TV. Oh, ESPN has it, but they've got something else, so we had to move it to 6. That's not going to happen. All games, with a few exceptions, will start at 7:30 p.m. local time either Wednesday or Saturday. The exceptions are some afternoon games and Sunday games, but those aren't because of cable. Those are things the league just wants to do. It costs $15 a month, $99 for the whole season, or if you're an Apple TV Plus subscriber to get Ted Lasso, $13 a month and $79 for the whole season. And if you're a T-Mobile customer, look at your T-Mobile Tuesday app because they're giving it away for free. One question some fans had is, what about bars? Does a bar need to get Apple TV? Do they just stream it to their TV from their iPhone? Do they use the Apple TV app on a Roku? How does that work? Well, some of the games are still going to air. They're going to air on TSN in Canada, Fox and FS1 in the United States. And a lot of bars use DirecTV for business. So Apple has a deal, since Apple doesn't provide a business service, to let DirecTV handle the commercial rights for all its MLS games. So if you're a bar who gets DirecTV for business, you can pick the package that has all the MLS games. Amazon Prime did this when they got the exclusive for Thursday Night Football. They gave the rights to commercial establishments to DirecTV business. This sounds like streaming finally fixing a thing rather than disrupting them, Brian.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm a little bit skewed in the fact that the local sports bar that I see, it's like there's an Atmosphere, couple of TVs, there's DirecTV, couple of TVs. It seems like everything is already streaming. So I'm glad to see Apple TV joining the mix. I guess I'm a little bit more dialed in on who is the face and the voice of bringing this game to us. And this is cheesy and dumb and stupid, but should it be somebody from Ted Lasso? Like should it be essentially Roy Kent?
How much Ted Lasso cross promotion should exist in MLS?
Yes, I mean, that's literally what I'm asking. Yes.
If there isn't Ted Lasso cross promotion, that's just a whiff. That's just a whiff. Like there's no way.
So you're convinced there will be?
I don't know how there won't be. Like I don't know how there won't be literally spots as we get into the MLB season, as we continue the XFL and the USFL season. I don't know how there won't be spots with Jason Sudeikis coming out and being like, "Hey, I love soccer." I think is it still? Oh wait, no, they call it football. Sorry, you love I love football. Like it's gonna be like that, and it's just gonna be jokey, and then boom.
We welcome to the booth Ted Lasso for commentary. Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, there's that other show that's got Deadpool and Mac from Always Sunny.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. The one on FX, the document. The
Wrexham, welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah.
But that's a documentary.
Yeah.
Correct. But these are people who speak football, global, soccer locally. But it's like
MLS hardly has commentators.
These people can bring the story alive in a good way.
They hardly have commentators.
No, I'm saying they do. I'm sure they have a whole roster of commentators for MLS. I mean, it's not like they're going into an empty field.
This would be just like a stunt. It would just be like a stunt that they do.
It would be like when they brought Brockman up to the booth for baseball to promote the Brockman show.
Classic Brockman reference. We love it.
Yeah, you guys love a Brockman.
I love
reference.
my broccoli, man.
I know you do. Look it up. Tell your friends. One last note on this before we move off of it. When in a year or two, everyone's wondering, wait, DirecTV's still around? How have they survived? Remember this story. DirecTV for Business getting all the rights. Because, yeah, as a bar, you can just get a Roku or an Apple TV and stream stuff. But if you get caught performing that, you'll pay a stiff fine. DirecTV for Business covers you, and you have the commercial license as well as the service. And it looks like DirecTV for Business is not just satellite delivered; that it can also be delivered over the internet as well. And it's a way for that company. Remember, DirecTV is not owned by AT&T fully anymore. AT&T just has a stake in it. It's an independent company. DirecTV is going the classic way of IBM and Microsoft before it, leaving behind the consumer to be an enterprise provider.
This feels so right in my book. There's a reason that soft drinks tend to be small, medium, large, right? Large, let's say, is going to the actual game. Small being finding out the score, via text or whatever. Medium being, I don't want to be alone in my house finding out the score. I want to be among other people. So yes, let's figure out a medium solution for this where everybody can watch the game together and have that kinship that we all want.
All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. And Merrill, I'm glad you're bringing this one up because I was watching Bob's Burgers earlier today, and it tried to make me watch what your pick is. What have you had your eyes on?
So, new Fox show called Animal Control. You're getting in the ground floor if you start watching. Literally, the first episode was last week. Stars Joel McHale and literally is about the animal control division. I think it's Seattle. It's made, I'm pretty sure I pimped this show on here before, a show called Sirens on USA about EMTs in Chicago. Same creator, showrunner. And it's got the exact, like, if you love Sirens, you're going to love Animal Control. It's the exact same vibes. It's just, it's exactly what I want. And you'll be able to find it on Hulu for next day. It is, so go watch it on Hulu for everyone on this show. It's Animal Control, it's so enjoyable. It's so much fun. It's got that perfect network sitcom-y workplace vibe. It's the characters are all just enjoyable. There isn't a lousy one in the bunch. Just strong recommend for Animal
How
Control.
Parks and Rec is it?
Having watched very little Parks and Rec, I don't feel qualified to say.
Okay.
However, I mean, that's all. Parks and Rec was sort of the proto of this idea of this document. I will say Parks and Rec is more of a mockumentary style without having the conceit of being
Parks
an
and Rec
actual
was
mockumentary.
taking The Office and making a government department.
Right. Animal Control is less that. Animal Control is much more of just a traditional sitcom,
Just a
workplace sitcom.
All right.
I mean, a single cam workplace sitcom. It's just really good and funny and zany and really, it's jokes for it's jokes a minute, joke to joke. It's just, you want to laugh, you want to have a good time. Strong rating for Animal Control and Sirens, which are both on Hulu.
Yeah. Brian, what about you?
So I continue to be watching Poker Face, which caused me, if you watched the recent episodes, there was a racing episode that I thought was it was fine for a Poker Face episode, but I was like, man, if you really want to fall in love with racing, you got to watch Cars. So I found out that both my 15-year-old and my 10-year-old had not recently or in living memory seen Cars, Pixar's Cars, better than I dared remember it. It is an extraordinary execution of all of that. But for my own personal viewing, I found out how to fix my AC unit, and that was a YouTube community where everybody bought this bad window unit, and everybody figured out, here's what you do. You cut out the control board and you splice these 4 wires together, and then it works. Just turn it on and turn it off. And
What?
It's quite literally. It's like the control board. The control board apparently does not have sufficient water protection on it.
Oh no!
So it corrodes way too fast. And so the answer is you take the control board and you cut it out and you just splice these 4 wires together. And now you have a new AC unit, one where when you turn it on, it runs. And when you turn it off, it goes off.
You're
It's
literally
amazing.
bypassing the main conducting unit.
Yes, you can. Congrats, General Electric. You probably are going to avoid a class action lawsuit as a result of
Brian-
this activity.
That's
Brian, I just
amazing.
wanna confirm, you have homeowners insurance, right?
What are you, a cop?
I'm just, just want to make sure.
Because if you're a cop, you have to tell me you're a cop.
The AC
Yeah.
police.
Yeah.
Yeah, the AC, please. All right. I will be the one person to stand up and say something nice about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania.
Holy moly, we found one.
You critics. You critics
I
with
didn't
your
even go.
hate.
I hadn't seen it yet either. I was gonna wait till Disney.
So Eileen got a preview for it. We went to see it last Monday. If you watched Cordkillers live, it was a little earlier because I had to get out of the house and go watch it. And when we were done, unbiased, never having heard anyone else give me an opinion, I said to Eileen and my other friends, Lamar Wilson was there with us, it was good. it was a little slow in parts. And it wasn't as funny as the other Ant-Man movies, but it had some great parts, and I enjoyed it. Overall, a fun romp. Right there, smack dab in the middle of MCU movies. I enjoyed it, and so I put that on Twitter after it was like below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
And I took some fire. I took a little bit of fire for saying Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is good.
I think I saw it at 48 on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's low.
My wife works for Rotten Tomatoes, as I mentioned earlier, and she came out when she got she's like, it's 60 and falling. And I was like, what? Really? And then it just kept falling. It's
a lot of the
47% right
seems
now.
to be about MODOK from what I've read. People are really
the MODOK part
backlashing on MODOK.
I loved that MODOK was there. I loved how MODOK looked with the shield down, but the way they put the face in there was a little too cartoony.
The things I've seen looked weird. It reminded me of that 90s movie with the big head. Like, I forget what the movie was called. Yeah.
84% audience score, though.
I mean, okay.
Sure.
Can we, cordkillers@gmail.com, but come on. Audience score, we all know. Audience loves everything.
What?
No, it's the other way. Like,
Have you ever seen an audience score lower than 80 on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm sorry.
Yes,
all the
Review
time.
bombing, Brian. Literally a whole controversy for the last
Also,
2 years.
they require you to, I believe they require you to have seen the movie in order to rate now.
And I'm sure they're checking your ticket stub when you've hit submit.
Well, they use Fandango to double check that.
Does that mean if I go see a movie at AMC and you buy my ticket through the AMC app that I can't review the movie?
I don't know how that works. I really don't. Yeah. But it would imply that only people who have seen the movie are expressing their opinions. So the reverse could be, oh, sure, those people liked the movie. They saw it. I, who have not seen it, know better. It's awful.
I mean, what I suspect is anybody who is reporting through that method is somebody who is 3 beers in and 1 pizza down, in which case they probably give it an upgrade.
Yeah. Well, and there is that Huckleberry Finn effect of like, oh, I got tricked into seeing it. I better pretend I liked it. All right.
Tom Sawyer, but yeah.
Was that not in Huck Finn?
Tom Sawyer doing that was in Huck Finn.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It was in the book Huckleberry Finn. Anyway, let's see what Bryce thinks we should be on the lookout for.
You should look out for this white picket fence. I had a pick for you guys. Recently, Netflix added season 5 of Aggretsuko. We've talked about this before. Aggressive Retsuko. This is a Sanrio semi-adult animated cartoon about the office worker Retsuko, a little red panda, who is very mild mannered until she does karaoke, and then it's like heavy metal scream singing. It's great. So this new season 5, I did not realize is the last season of Aggretsuko. That's a shame because it doesn't feel like it. But this follows Retsuko and her now unemployed boyfriend Haida. They're dealing with relationship stuff, being a little more serious with each other, going and seeing each other's parents. And Retsuko kind of gets pushed even further out of her comfort zone. I really like this show. I think it's a really easy watch because each episode tends to be about 11 to 15 minutes. And then you watch like the final episode of a season and it's like 30 minutes and you're like, why is this so long? It's 30 minutes. But it's very sweet. The animation's really good. I think the English dub is all right. I think the Japanese version with subtitles is also very good. And with season 5 being out and being a final season, I guess the story's done. Now I want to rewatch the last episode and just and remember and notice that that's the end of the show.
If we're wrapping stuff up, it seems to me like there's a couple of possibilities. Maybe she dies, or maybe she becomes not angry anymore. Could you do me a favor and either shrug if she ceases to be angry, or cough if she dies?
I don't think I will do any of those gestures.
Darn it. Yeah. Well, good try. Good try,
good.
Brian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's called Aggretsuko. You can check it out on Netflix. They've got 5 seasons streaming right now. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Let's get on to the front lines.
I don't remember. Was coughing dying or becoming not?
I don't know. I shrugged too, but nobody on the audio could hear that.
Doesn't matter. The point is, the only way you'll ever see the shrug or hear the cough is if you have a computer. So head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue. ROGUE, spell it right. You'll get an extra something when you order. You'll get unparalleled customer service. Most importantly, you'll be supporting the folks who support us.
Great people.
Yes. Oh, also, real quick, A Word with Tom Merritt is not just something my mother and father used to have, but also a show at awordpodcast.com. This week, I chatted with Natalia Antelava, former BBC correspondent, now doing Coda Story, trying to help fight the spread of misinformation and disinformation by dictatorships around the world. So I talked to her about the word manipulation, and she gave a lot of great insight into how governments are using social media and regular media to manipulate people, and maybe even some things you can do to protect yourself from that. So if that sounds of interest to you, awordpodcast.com. Now,
before we do, Tom, real quick, one thing that I mentioned before is that you tricked me into being more vulnerable than I tend to be on the show.
He tricked you.
It's been a minute since I was on the show. Have you tricked anyone better?
Scott Johnson was real close.
Really?
Was real close. Yeah, because I talked to him about being a dad.
Oh.
And all those, he
got all misty-eyed.
Yeah. It was a good episode. It was a great episode. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But you're still tops. Don't worry. Your crown is unchallenged. Let's
make a
move
promise
on.
that if Tom ever invites me on this show, I will not be vulnerable. I will make sure to keep the steel trap
Man,
shut.
that's like if today was opposite day, you would be booked immediately.
Yes, exactly. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
It is time for the numbers. Roku reported in Q4 its ad-supported Roku channel reached 100 million people in the United States, up 25% on the year. It increased active accounts by 7% on the quarter to 70 million, with streaming hours up 9% on the quarter to 23.9 billion. AMC Networks ended 2022 with 11.8 million streaming subscribers. That's across not just AMC Plus, but also Acorn TV, Shudder, Sundance, All Black, and High Dive. And that's a rise of 700,000 over the previous quarter. And Paramount Plus added almost an entire AMC network's worth of subscribers, 9.9 million subscribers in Q4, bringing the total of Paramount Plus subscribers to 56 million. If Paramount plays the AMC game and combines Showtime, BET Plus, and Noggin, they added 10.8 million direct-to-consumer subscribers for 77 million total. But bad news, price increases are on the offing. Paramount Plus's premium tier, which includes Showtime, is going to go up $2 to $11.99 a month, and the essential tier will increase $1 to $5.99 a month.
I put to the entire panel one question. Has Roku successfully pulled off a Netflix? By which I mean it went from being a physical thing, in Netflix's case being physical DVDs, to becoming a virtual thing, the content, in Roku's case being the physical thing with the Levi's tab, to becoming the brand. Have they done it, yes or no? Merrill?
No.
Tom?
They beat Apple to it.
Yes, and they did it before Apple could do it.
Because my note has a quality.
Bryce.
Yes. I mean, I think Roku is the name that people look for when they're looking for TV stuff. I don't think that they really are caring about what's on the Roku channel tonight, but I know when they're buying a TV or they're buying a device, they're looking at Roku, and Roku's a very powerful word there.
And Fox announced that Tubi now has 64 million monthly active users, up from 51 million last May. Tubi claims to be the largest free streaming content catalog with over 50,000 titles and more than 200 live TV channels. Fox predicts that its ad-supported streaming will rise between 9 and 24% this year, while its paid streaming will stay flat.
Yeah, good betting on the fast channels there for Fox. The NHL is going to animate a live game on March 14th between the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers called the NHL Big City Greens Classic. The game will feature characters from the TV show Big City Greens alongside animated versions of actual hockey players using the NHL Edge system, which often tracks pucks and things to track the players. It'll also feature commentators reacting to some of the action from the imaginary Big City Green characters. The unaltered game will broadcast on ESPN. You'll be able to see regular people with regular commentators, but if you want to watch this animated version, go to the Disney Channel, Disney XD, or Disney Plus. NHL's SVP of Business Development David Lahansky said this is just a test, but that data from NHL Edge could make it possible to do other things like it, possibly customized game broadcasts in Roblox or Minecraft. Brian, you were on Daily Tech News Show when we talked about this earlier last week.
Yes. Thank you, Tom, for making me convinced that I'm not psychotic, and we'd already done this last week. Definitely listen to DTNS for our take on that. Starz is partnering with Amazon to bundle its movies service with Amazon's MGM Plus. Both services can be combined for $11.99 a month, a savings of 20%. Lionsgate and Starz are in the process of separating, with plans to announce details in March and the split of the studio businesses in September.
Oh, so Amazon's buying Starz. Got it. Okay, clear enough. Here are a few other notes. All Quiet on the Western Front cleaned up at the UK's BAFTA Awards, record-breaking 7 wins. Warner Brothers Discovery has extended its right to show the U.S. Open in 45 markets across Europe, including exclusive access in 42 territories. Netflix's prequel Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, has a premiere date. It will come out on May 4th. Netflix has ordered an anime series based on the manga Pluto. Pluto is based on Tezuka's Astro Boy, the greatest robot on Earth arc from 1964. Netflix released a trailer for You, Season 4, Part 2, which arrives March 9th. Netflix also dropped a trailer for Season 2 of Shadow and Bone. That's been a couple of years in the offing. Apple TV Plus will release an 8-episode climate drama on March 17th called Extrapolations, set in the mid-21st century, and a list of stars. Disney Plus released a clip of The Mandalorian showing Baby Yoda stealing some food. That show arrives on March 1st. A new Little Mermaid trailer showing Melissa McCarthy as Ursula is out. The movie arrives May 26th. Disney announced it's going to air some XFL games on FX this season. My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, yes, is a movie, and it will come to theaters September 8th. Apple TV Plus released a trailer for Tetris, the movie. Not an emoji movie kind of thing. It's a documentary of the development of Tetris, starring Taron Egerton, coming March 31st. And Warner Brothers Discovery is going to do some airing of edited episodes of Silicon Valley on TBS and edited versions of True Blood on TNT. We've seen these kinds of good moves as good promotional opportunities. Disney has done them on ABC. CBS has done Star Trek on CBS broadcast. Merrill, you have another thought about why we might be seeing Warner Brothers Discovery doing this.
Yeah, this is strike training. This is training for the. Keep an eye on this story, because yes, we've done these before, but we're in it. Never has there been the glut of content there is now amongst the streamers, and they are all owned by studios. And we are on the precipice of a potential major work stoppage, not just amongst the WGA and the writers, but the Actors Guild and the Directors Guild, because they're all negotiating their contracts at this moment. And for the first time ever, the studios are primed. Like, the longest strike ever with WGA was 100 days. If this allows them to take content from the streamers, edit it down, put it onto CBS, NBC, ABC, and then TNT, TBS, USA, etc. And then they can go, hey, did you kind of like that edited version of this thing? Well, why don't you subscribe to Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or whatever and watch the unedited version of blank, right? Uncut, unedited, uncensored. It's an advertisement, and it keeps all of those networks solvent with new to them content while work stoppages play out. Like, this could be a major story.
That's interesting, and an interesting tool in the tool belt that was not around the last time.
Correct.
There was a
like
strike.
you could see 6 months of this happening. Will they build up an unscripted and reality competition slate that would take them out another X amount of time before they finally made a deal?
All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Ben wrote in and said, when we sign up for a service, I cancel it the next day. We get used to it until the month runs out. Then we resubscribe when we want to use it again. Brian often talks about canceling all your services and then resubscribing when you need it. I suppose we're taking it to an extreme level, but it certainly is budget friendly.
Yeah, and to double down on that, like I would pay more to only have 1 month and no need to remember to unsubscribe the next day or what have you.
Sean wrote in and was playing the Hogwarts Legacy game, which is all the rage right now. Went to pay the $4.99 to get Peacock and found that the Harry Potter films had abrupt cuts and scene transitions. Peacock appears to be showing TV edited versions that remove content to get to a TV PG rating. Bryce, you looked into this.
Yeah, looking on Reddit, especially the Peacock and the Harry Potter subreddits, there are different reports that Peacock is posting TV extended cuts. So these are cuts. These are cuts of these movies where they've been made TV friendly, so curse words, extreme violence, etc., etc. But then they've also added deleted scenes to these cuts, either to make up for the runtime or to hit a certain runtime. There's been reports of really aggressive audio leveling, so really quiet stuff comes up really loud. You kind of get that sausage effect. This is really interesting because these are not, as far as I've seen, cuts that are available. It's not like they're showing the fullest extended version of these cuts, which you might tend to find, or just the TV cuts that you might see on airplanes or something, but then you wouldn't really buy those or have those. So,
I have a theory.
Oh, take it.
Warner owns these and are willing to license them to Peacock only under these conditions, because then they can sell the full versions.
We'll give you the bad versions until we get it back on HBO.
Wow. They're graffitiing their own content.
Or they're basically saying like, well, no, Peacock, we won't sell you these, but we've got these other versions. We could license you those.
And if you want the authentic Harry Potter, then go buy the DVD, go buy the Blu-rays.
Yeah,
we got them for you.
Go to voodoo.com,
also,
buy them there. Yeah.
So well, let me just offer an alternative theory, because I'm very familiar with this particular streaming space and how these particular deals work. It's also very possible that these are just the versions that Peacock has on file, and it's much easier to re-up and re-put up versions you already have on file of something than to have to get re-ingested these new versions that they have to get from the licensor.
They got the license and we're like, oh, we only have the TV edits. Is that fine? Otherwise, we have to. It's a lot of trouble to get the real ones ingested. Yeah, I could see that being part of it.
And then you get somebody over in the promotions department that is like, look, all I need is these 10 titles on this list that's going out in this press release.
Yeah, I don't care if they're the TV edits or not.
I don't care how good they are.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Merrill. And Merrill, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate having you. Speaking of Tetris, what have you got going on?
Well, in addition to my usual plug, which is my Twitter, twitter.com/Merrill Barr, MERRILLBARR. I'm also putting Word Tetris is still out. It's always been there. I'm doing a fresh sale for all you Cordkillers listeners. It's a podcast where I talk to a ton of showrunners and writers and producers and such about the art of screenwriting, particularly the art of rewriting, and a bunch of other interviews as well. Big names. Go to wordtetris.com/archive. It's normally $50. Use the code CK at checkout for 50% off.
Excellent. Folks, our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.